This episode of the House of Rahmas is brought to you by our Peptide Beauty line. Hi, Hannah. This is Hannah Kaul with Women in Business, and I am Christina Rahm. And under Dr. Christina Rahm, we're going to talk about women in business today.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me. It's good to
Tell
be with
me
you.
about, we were joking earlier, I was going to start with, tell me about a P450 pathway and enzymes. And Hannah was like, what am I going to say?
Just a blank stare.
No, I think you would turn it around somehow,
I'm
too.
sure.
It's a pathway on the road. No, P450 pathways are basically in your body, and they metabolize things. But for me, what you do is as significant or more than what I do in science because you're really promoting women in business. So tell us about you and what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying that. And I think that science and business go hand in hand, just like on a personal level. You know, knowing and regulating your own body and your hormones and your brain and all of those things. It's so essential for women in business to thrive and survive. And
I think women are more attuned to that. I hate generalizations. I always say to people, I'm not trying to generalize, but I am. There's certain patterns, of course, and hopefully today in our age of the world, we do understand how important our bodies are, because if your bodies aren't working, either, and I say this all the time, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically, because I think everyone always thinks when a body's not working, and as a businesswoman, if my body's not working, it's not always just physical. I mean, there's like stress, for example, really impacts, like we know it can cause an epigenetic, right, that signals a disease or an autoimmune disorder or dysfunction. But yet, sometimes we just go on with our day. As women, I think we have, and I want to speak as a mother of 4 children, and I don't think this even matters that I had 4 children, but I will say you're constantly have this pressure to produce in different ways, in numerous ways, right? Like if you're working, you're still expected to clean at home and cook at home, which I love to cook and clean. By the way, I really do. Yeah. If I have time. And I really do. I used to clean hotel rooms as one of the jobs I had, and I've always loved to cook. But when you're working all day and you're in business, I'm just going to speak for me. Like I come home and my husband comes home, he's not going to cook, right? So I'm either going to be cooking or ordering Uber Eats or going out for dinner.
It's true.
And when you're working, sometimes you know how it is for women and men. There's weeks people work, whether they admit it or not, they're working a lot more than 40 hours a week, right? So wanting to cook and clean isn't always something you want to do, but when it's expected of you, you have to juggle it. So do you address that with with women, or how are you on that spectrum? Because I know what you're doing in your organization, but I want to hear a little bit more about it, because I would love to promote it and talk about it, because women need mentors and they need guidance.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the top things that the women that I lead or serve through Women in Biz, what they say is that they want mentors. They need mentors. They need people that have gone before them to help pave the path. So Women in Biz is a nationwide network that I lead of women in business. So that's corporate queens, people that are working the 9-to-5 life. That's the female founders, so someone like yourself. Or it's people that are budding entrepreneurs. So people that have an idea for a business but don't know how to get started. And my mission is really to lead people into purpose and profit. What I found was that there's so many different organizations that are super ethereal. It's like, here's what I was made to do, kind of woo-woo kind of stuff, or spiritual. What was I made for? What do I like? What do I not like? And then there's this other spectrum of the profit side. So tons of coaching and boot camps and accelerator programs that are super expensive. That are all about profit. Super here's how you hit the pavement and make $1. But there were very few that were actually integrated. And I remember I was just personally working for an organization. I had a huge sales goal in front of me, and I felt so ill-equipped. I was like, I don't know how to tackle this hurdle and maintain the integrity of who I am. And I don't have the tools that I need in order to get there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't be the only person who doesn't have another woman in Nashville that they could call and say, hey, can you help me with this? How did you do this? How did you tackle this? Did you overcome this? And so I started Women in Biz, and since then it's grown to about 800 women nationwide, which is amazing.
That's amazing.
And people are hungry. Yeah. Women are hungry. They're hungry not just for profit or to be successful. They want connection.
Yeah.
Connection to something that's greater than themselves, not just clocking in and out of a 9 to 5, but real community, real connection to themselves, real connection to mentors.
I think what you're doing is so important, even in our company, and I mean that. I think it's important for men and women,
both.
But I do think that women, we need to step up and mentor even more, because I didn't have a lot of female mentors, to be honest. I don't feel sorry for myself. I've had a great career, great life, but I didn't have a lot, and I would have loved to have had more. I felt like with women older and younger, in the career I had in biotech and pharma, there was such competition to get to the highest level. And so it was, but you need that guidance. And like even in our company, like I want everyone to be friends in our company. But I also understand that like an executive director doesn't need to go to someone under them. And I think all people are equal, but you have to have different jobs, right, in a company.
Of course.
But you don't need to basically inappropriately, in a workplace, you have to work, right? So it's great if you're friends, but really you're there to work too. I mean, there's a balance. So if you can find those outside of the office where it's not necessarily as competitive, but you can give advice that's going to help someone that's not directly going to impact your visibility, because when you're at a job, there is some level of competition.
100%.
So you want to be the one that comes up with the ideas. You want to be the one that hits the sales numbers, right? So to find someone outside is really important, I think.
100%. Yeah, I was literally just having this conversation verbatim of there's a level of like healthy competition. And I mean, I'd be curious for you too, of like, as a CEO, I'm sure you need some form of incentivization, not to create any kind of chaotic or like unhealthy environment, but internally you can't have as candid of conversations as you could in a safe space outside of work, or with a safe person. And that's why I offer coaching to corporations, because people need a safe person to be like, hey, like here's what's happening behind the scenes. I can't take this to my manager. I don't know how to navigate this with them. But if I have a safe place to like wrestle it out,
you need it. Yeah,
you need it, and it saves the company money. Well, it saves them time.
It does. It does. We even talked about hiring a psychologist, and that's really my background. But we talked about hiring a psychologist even for the workplace here, because there's so many issues people have to deal with, and I think the pandemic only made that worse. There's lots of isolations. There's lots of, but truly, it helps to have someone that you can go to, but going to someone within the company as a sounding board, just the potential for gossip.
Oh, 100%.
The potential that it impacts your job in a negative way. Because you could go to a peer and talk to them about a challenge you're having. They could take that back to like a CEO like me and twist it just a little bit to sound like that person's complaining. And we've experienced that here. And that's not healthy, really. So going outside, I think, is a great way to really learn as a person. I think that's one of the things, like athletes have that when they're on a team, right? Because they have that camaraderie, and they can always go to each other. But women, first of all, most of us aren't on a sports team right now where we're daily practicing. We may be on since I've been an adult, I've been on a soccer team before. I've been on a softball. I've been on volleyball. I don't do that now. I think with every child I had, the less I did as far as team sports. But I think really what you're doing is great, because you just have to have it. And hopefully you have people that are stepping up, that are really helping the women that haven't made it yet where they want to go. Because I always say this, everyone has a different goal and a different mission. And so you're right, not everyone wants the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on. And I think that's the hope, is that some people just aren't handed the same deck of cards that others are. And some people just receive favor and grace for one thing and others don't. And, my hope is to kind of bridge the gap.
Yeah.
Bring the people who are graced, favored, who have experienced some really great success and are willing to share it, and, distill it down into something that's really actionable for others, so that they can like take it and run with it. And that's what we do. So our partnership is with Soho House, which is how we've been able to expand to Austin, obviously home base is Nashville, New York, Chicago. And that's really the platform that we've used to distill some of this information.
How did you get that platform? That's a great platform, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you, I think you told me you knew someone there, or how did you get that connection?
It was kind of wild. So I, because of like kind of pieces of the story that I had shared earlier of like, man, like I just see a real need. So I lived in Chicago for about a decade. And in Chicago, like, everyone's a woman in business. Like, when you're in a big metropolitan city, it's like, everyone's
I think Chicago does have more women in business. I really do. They're known for that.
100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's that, like, corporate grind. Like,
it is.
In order to live a nice lifestyle there, like, you have to kind of hustle a little bit. And then I moved here, and it's, like, really chill, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I was like, where are all the other ladies that are, like, working towards something bigger than themselves? And I'm not saying that's nothing against Nashville. It's just a different culture. And
I never actually, well, that's not true. Well, I've never really worked just in Nashville.
Right, you're global.
Yeah, so even though I've had offices here, I don't know it. There was one point in my life where I did run 2 companies. They were throughout the United States. But it was really definitely Nashville based. And I know these companies are, but we have offices and lawyers and accountants in different countries and different places. But it was hard. I have to be honest. Like in Nashville, as a CEO that was really planted here, it was a challenge for me.
That's a great question just to ask back to you of like, how have you, I've been in Nashville 2 years. And so since then, saw the gap, essentially with Soho House, saw the gap. I was like, listen, we do a lot for the creatives in this community, which is amazing. Love the creatives. But I was like, what about the other women in business? And so essentially I pitched them and I was like, I want to start Women in Biz. And it just exploded. The first event, there were over 200 women who came. They were scattered on the floor, literally sitting on the floor. These like sophisticated women, just like hungry for what I was teaching about, for connection to other women, to grow in their careers. It just is an untapped market. And so I just followed the need. And the need, people just kept knocking. Like there was demand in Austin. New York was crazy. I mean, New York was, when we did workshops there in June, it was like absurd, the response. And these are women who work at, Vogue, Condé Nast, like LinkedIn. These are like sophisticated women, all with the same need. Connection and resource. But I'd be curious for you as a CEO here in Nashville, like how have you cultivated community that you can trust of people who are running with you? And how do you discern
in Nashville
or even across the board, like how do you discern who to let in, who to actually let in? Because I'm sure so many eyes are on you. You lead massive organizations. You're doing incredible work. I'm sure everybody wants access to you. How do you discern like what to say yes or no to? Who are your people? I'd be so curious.
So I would say I lean upon the people. I'm just being honest with you right now because I think you. So my closest network here, a lot of them are not really in business. Now I do have some close friends that are really competitive to me in a way of what I do. I like Crystal Archie's a great friend of mine. She's one of the top people in Rodan and Fields, and now she's working for a company that's a little bit competitive to us. I respect her a ton. And I would say I would love to work with her, but I also love not working with her because her daughter lives with my son, and they love each other, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is she has been someone throughout my career that I can talk to. She's had a little bit different of a career, but she's worked really hard. I mean, she works really hard and she excels. But the rest of the women that I would say I'm the closest to in Nashville right now, most of them I know because of my kids. And so I think the older that I've gotten, the more I really lean on stability and trusting people that knew me before I was where I am. On the flip side, I have very close women friends that are extremely successful throughout the United States, and they are my friends, that are lieutenant governors or women that run organizations. I'm like you. I've had people approach me. For example, we have someone that's going to be on the panel that used to be the editor of Vanity Fair, and now she's at Glamour. women, but here's the thing I've learned. Women, the higher they go, the more they are succeeding, the harder it is, and they have no one to talk to. And they need organizations like yours. And I would tell you they need it because they need that balance. And you do need to continue to create that circle of trust. But I have a unique thing that I think is, I don't know, I don't love someone because they're successful. I don't create a friendship because I feel like that person is competitive or not competitive to me or along the same lines. I kind of create, and I don't create friendships with people that think just like me either. I think it just is over a feeling and energetically wanting to be around that person. And it's interesting, some of my closest friends throughout my life have been a huge age difference. So for example, when I was in my 20s, there was two women that I would say were two of my best friends. One of them is no longer alive. And it was, I still sometimes get upset at her. Her name was Wilhelmina. And she was a doctor, and I worked with her as a psychologist, and she died, and she was, I think, 72 when I met her and 78 when she died. So we had a huge, but she did mentor me. She did. She was literally took me under her wing and helped me. And then another lady, Barbara Shervanian at South Alabama, was 25 years older than me. And she was one of my best friends. She's still a very good friend of mine. I don't get to see her a lot, but I just think I can feel when people truly care about me. And I truly care about people regardless of their positions. But I think finding your group is important. And I do think you need both. I think you need people that understand your job and what you're doing. And then I think you need people that they don't, but they give you feedback that you need to hear. Because for me, I only know what I know, right? And I'm always on a plane. I'm in another country. I don't understand that people aren't seeing what I'm seeing because I'm seeing a lot, right? It helps me to hear sometimes people that are at home that aren't going to Saudi Arabia, right, or haven't been in Lebanon. I'm being honest, or Syria, because then I hear their viewpoint and I realize, oh my gosh, I'm just thinking like, I think, because I've been exposed to that. And the same thing as being a female CEO, like I would love to get to know you better because you're going to experience things that I haven't and vice versa. But I think that connection, you know how they say opposites sometimes attract? Yeah. I think that's something useful too. Yeah. Like but I do know there's a need in Nashville right now because I heard, you know, we had the event at my house and I heard over and over and over, which is why I thought it was so pivotal that I met you, because that women really need this connection.
Yeah. I mean, I love everything that you're sharing. I mean, it sounds like it's so balanced in terms of who your connections are with, like people that have gone before you, also people who are peers, also people who have nothing to do with business.
I mean, people that are mothers. Like I have some best friends. I have some best friends that have never had children. Yeah. And if you ask me, do I feel like I love them less or understand them less because I had 4 and they don't have any? No. I don't feel like that at all. I feel like that's awesome. They're great people. I connect. So you have, I know you know this. So women will think they're better if you stay home, that you have a heads up on a woman that works. Women that work think they have life harder than someone that stays home. And I've always really paid attention to that because I don't like that division. I think that everyone makes a personal choice. And like one of the things I would love to see your group do, and I'm not over your company, you're doing it. So this is just like, I think every once in a while having a mother that's the CEO of her home or that's over her home is important because I think you still need to relate because we're all in this together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's so true. And actually, the last event we did in Austin, somebody had reached out to me and they were like, hey, like, could you include more moms in like panel discussions or conversations? And I'm like, yeah, like absolutely. And I'm not a mother yet, but it's so important. And even the mothers that I coach in my coaching business, I'm always so just fascinated and I just honor them so much in the balance of the work that they do because they're fighting for not just a business, but for a household.
They are. There's a group I want to introduce you to. It's out in the Hamptons because I do a lot in the Hamptons. Yeah. And I'm actually getting ready to go there next week. But it's called Boss Moms.
Oh, I love it.
The lady that runs that is from Germany. And she all the women have had careers, and now they're switching their careers to their children, but creating businesses at home. And she's always looking for groups like yours, and they're super connected because of, like one of the actresses from Sex and the City is in that group. I mean, they're a super connected group, right? Because of Hamptons, New York, and everything. That would be a great, because they are, and most of them are in this transition phase. So basically, they worked, then they had children and went home, and now they're creating businesses at home, right? And I think that's important for people to know too, because you see this shift, right? People used to go in an office all the time, but now a lot of people do work from home, which does give the ability for women that have children to do things.
Yeah, it's so true. I actually, that comes up like pretty frequently.
I definitely want to connect you to her.
Yeah, I would love that, because that is a hard transition, especially moms who had been in the workforce, stopped to raise children, and then are getting back. It's like there's a lot of learning curves, and that would be such a great
and integrating back in. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. That's a really it's a challenge.
And a lot of those women are creatives, just so you know. So they're members of Soho. I told you I think we were just in LA Soho. We went to 2 Sohos in LA.
Oh, I love it. Which ones?
Yeah. They were downtown, in the downtown area. I said to my husband, I don't even know where we are in LA. Yes. Because I was getting so confused. They were. So I think there's 3 in LA.
Yeah, they have there are a few.
But some of them are not hotels. Did you know that?
Oh, actually, I didn't know that.
Well, that's what my husband said. We stayed at 2, and if you ask me why we stayed at 2, because my husband wanted to try both of them. He said, "Can we try at least 2?" And I go, "Great." I have to move from one to the next.
You're like, sure, I guess we could do that.
The second one, the first one did not have a pool.
Okay.
And it was really quaint. It was really pretty, and I liked it. They did have a rooftop where they served Mexican food. So if you remember, I don't know which one.
Okay.
And then the second one had a pool upstairs and a whole area that actually looked just like Rome's Soho House.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it was really beautiful. That's what I love about Soho. They're all so unique.
I know, they're beautiful.
Don't they have another hotel that's like a business hotel connected to them?
So they have, at least in New York, I know they have the Ned. And
that's a Ned.
The Ned.
And have you stayed there?
I've stayed there when I've done workshops in New York. And I love it.
We stayed there once, but I don't know. There's something about Soho.
I know. There's something different.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's like there's something.
I like the artistic. I really do.
Yes.
I think it's so. A lot of people don't get in Soho. Did you know that? What is the reason for that?
That's a great question. I honestly don't know. I've been a member for like quite a long time, but maybe because they're not like as in the creative space. I know that.
Did I tell you the story when you're at the house about the comedy club? I know he's trying to get me to stop, but I have to tell the story.
What was it? No, I don't
remember. I was in New York with my daughter, and so and she was. This was 2 years ago, and so Merritt Ella was probably 16, I think, at the time. And so there was a comedy show in the club, and so we went to the comedy show, and the guy speaking was like, "How many of you here are Soho members?" And of course, a lot of us were, or the Elsa guests. So we raised our hand, and he said, "Do you guys know how you got your membership?" And then he goes, "Does everyone here know how you got your membership?" And of course, no one really knows.
Right.
And then he goes, "Well, just so everyone knows it's here, they're either swingers or they're in the Illuminati." And my daughter looked at me and said, "Mom, what is that?"
And you're like, "We'll talk about it later."
And then she goes, Merritt Ella goes, "What is that?" And I go, "I'm not either, so I have no idea." And then she goes, "Well, how did you get in?" And I go, "It was a joke." But everyone laughed because no one knows exactly how you get in.
I know.
And so it's kind of interesting.
There's no solid formula.
There's no solid formula.
I know.
I actually I was doing a pet event too in New York, and I met the lady that works with the different social networks of Soho. I forgot her name. She knew my son, Kreider. Kreider's 19, and I don't know how she knew Kreider. She met him somewhere at Soho. But I asked her, because it was something social membership or something.
Okay.
And she goes, "There's not an exact formula." But she said,
just random.
It does have to do with social media and reviewing profiles and stuff like that. So there's some connection there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. They definitely.
So it is not the Illuminati.
It's not the Illuminati.
It has nothing to do with any kind of.
You heard it here first. I'm not part of the Illuminati.
I'm not part of the Illuminati. Well, I'm not either, right? I'm like, I know that I'm not either. It was really funny though, because how he said it, because people don't know.
Yes.
I have really good friends that are creatives. They're very successful, and they can't get in.
I know, it's so funny. That happens to me too all the time, because I'll refer like a ton
and
of
I
people.
refer them,
Yes.
and I'm like, and then I feel bad because I'm like, I have no idea.
Yes, that's how I feel too. Or they'll hear back.
But you're
like,
supposed to know. You're connected to them.
I know, they're not giving me all that kind of scoop. That's that. They give me a little scoop, but not that kind of scoop.
How do people join your group, and what can I do to support? Because I would love to be a part of it. I told you that when you're at my house.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's so funny, because I was about to ask you the same thing. So something that we do in Women in Biz, there's not enough spaces for people to ask for what they need.
Yeah.
I personally am not great at asking for what I need.
I'm not either.
Which is why I like try and practice this with the group, in that we ask, what do you need for support? Like, what does support look like to you? And we just create an environment where people can actually ask.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask you, actually, how can Women in Biz support you, and what do you need right now?
Well, first of all, if you ever need spaces, just so you know, to meet, you're welcome to meet here or at my house. I'm not always there, but you're welcome to. I see my son over there, like, but I mean that. He knows if it has anything to do with subjects like this. Like, I'm all for that.
So sweet.
I would love to be connected more to women in business in Nashville. We do have quite a few. You asked me my network. I mean, like, Lauren Lowry was just here. She's a good friend of mine. Over the last 3 years, we've met probably 10, 11, 12 times, but it's not always on the news. I met her, I was on her podcast first, and then we gradually got to know each other. And there are amazing women. And now that I'm thinking about it, I do have a network of women here that will be speaking on the panel that I really do like. And there's some that couldn't speak on the panel that I really like.
Yeah.
I do want to do more for women. I used to be in the WPO, and I did a lot of different things. And then I kind of went through a phase where, COVID changed things.
Of course.
And then, honestly, I went through a divorce and got remarried, and it was just a lot of different changes in my life. But it's important to me to support women. I feel like it works both ways. So what I mean by that is, and I just did a podcast about this too. When you have a child, for example, you're learning as much from your child as they're learning from you, and people don't realize that. And I think it's the same way with mentorship. So when you mentor an individual, then they're actually also mentoring you, because you lose sight. Just like I talked about me traveling and having friends that stay home, and they're some of my best friends. I think you lose sight the more you grow businesses, because you're only exposed here, and then everyone tries to isolate and protect you because they're trying to preserve your sanity, right, and your ability to keep achieving things. But you lose perspective of some things when that happens, and you're not as connected. And so I would love to be a part of that and somehow hear what other people are experiencing and help in any way possible. Also, we are always hiring at this company, and we're always looking at great resources. And I think the opportunity to work at a company that's in 80 countries
huge
is extremely important. And I would love to tell women, and I hope that some of the women in your business hear this.
Yeah.
When you join a company, one of the things that I always tell people is, don't ever think you're too good to do everything in that company. Like, if you really want to be a successful CEO or a female in business, then you should be able to do everything that you expect from everyone else.
Amen to that.
You got to be a servant and a leader. You really do. I believe that. And I believe women have such a capacity because of how we're made to do both. But that's where I always want to be connected to women. And I don't just want to be connected to women that have already achieved what they want. I have that circle, the Elysium Circle. We've got women coming in that are some of the most successful women in this country. And we have some women internationally coming in. But I think connecting to other people that haven't gotten there yet, it doesn't mean that are not just as good at what they're doing. And I think it's important to collaborate together.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love your heart for people. And there are always women that are looking for gigs.
They are.
There are always women looking for gigs and for the next best place to work.
Even when they're in business, right?
100%.
They're looking for the next opportunity, because if you close that off, you'll never become what your mission and purpose is in this world.
100%. Yeah. And I'm, personally, I'm so inspired by you and by your work. And,
Thank you.
I work with a lot of executives and a lot of female CEOs, and I really admire your grit. And even today, like, you were on the news at 7 a.m. and I'm like your fifth conversation. Or
Can I
6th?
just tell the news station this? They shouldn't tell me I have to be there at 6:30 if I'm not going on until 7:10.
Hey, tell them. Get there at 7. That's right. It's too early.
Yeah, and you know what? My alarm didn't go off this morning.
No, but you still made it.
I actually happened to get up. So if I know I'm doing something the next morning, I don't sleep.
I know. It's like,
so I got up at 1, 2, 3, and 4. And at 4, I said to my husband, are you sure you set the alarm? Because he had set it for 5:15. He said, I'm positive. Yeah. And he goes, can you please just lay down and go to sleep? And I said, I'm worried that we're not going to get up. So at 6 o'clock, I got up and I said, Clayton, what time is it? And he goes, it's not 5:30. The alarm didn't get up. So I get up. The alarm had not gotten off.
Oh,
so
no.
I got ready in probably 2 to 3 minutes. Well, he did too. We walked out the door.
That is wild.
And this is me today. Because
okay, well, you look amazing. I mean, honestly, I'm like, I really honor that. And like,
but I don't always look perfect. And that's the difference between men and women. Women are supposed to always, because we're women. Mm-hmm. So men can, like my son's over there in a ponytail. My husband can just do his hair like this.
In 5 seconds.
And he's ready. He can wear the same shirt every day, by the way. Why
look
can't
great.
we? I know, and he looks great.
Yes, it's like, what the heck? It's
and
so
everyone's
annoying.
like, he's so cute. And I'm like, yeah. And meanwhile, they're like, your clothes are wrinkled.
Yes, it's so true.
They can have wrinkled clothes and they look great.
It's so true.
We walk in and they're like, you didn't do your clothes today.
Yes, but 1,000%. And I know, I know we need to wrap, but I'm dying to ask you this question because sometimes I feel this way. And I'm like, I bet you would feel this way too. You know how Beyonce has like Sasha Fierce? It's like her like alternate ego that like comes alive. When she's
and people have a problem with that because they think it's you have all the conspiracy theories.
Right, people think right.
And I don't buy into all those. But anyway,
same. Like you know, conspiracy aside, do you have? Because I feel like as a person that like does a lot of public speaking, does a lot of workshops. You are obviously in the public eye a lot. Like, how do you? Where do you have like an off and on button? Like, how do you? Like, I mean, this morning you were like, you were ready to go in 2 minutes. Like, how do you go from like, Beyonce to Sasha Fierce? I pray. Are you always that way?
So I know this is probably not what everyone is expecting. I pray that God and the Holy Spirit goes in before me because I can't do it. So I know that sounds, and I'm not just saying that because I that's what I do. Because if I can't do it,
amen.
If I can't do it, then I can't do it. And there's a lot of days. Today's one of those days, to be honest, because so I don't have to do it because then I have this other thing. I always pray for whoever I'm going to meet the next day. My family comes. I always pray for them first,
of course,
but for abundance and to be with them. So that way, each person. And then I pray that I can feel how they feel, so that I know when I walk in the room, it's not just what I feel. I'm putting myself into their shoes, and every person deserves the energy that you care and that you're connected. And it's a missed opportunity if you don't give it. But there's days we're all off. And I think, I do want to say this, as a female, you look at women and you have this thing that you're either weak because you care or you're a bitch because you're having to be strong. And if a male is being strong, they're just being a boss, right? But when a female does it, she's losing her mind. And I wanted to tell women that they should be who they need to be. And sometimes that entails being kind and letting someone cry. And sometimes that entails you do have to have boundaries and you do have to say this job has to get done. I'm sure you know this. To do what we've done and to do what I've done in my career, I'm pretty, I don't want to use the word uptight because I have a creative personality, so I'm both, but I am pretty, if you have a job to do and you're working with me, then you better do the job because I'm doing it. Does that make sense? Like if I wasn't doing it, then I wouldn't expect it.
Listen, I get it. I get it deeply. So it's both.
It's both.
I love that. Show up, both. Be who you need to be.
But I do think, I know about all the, like I said, I really don't buy into conspiracy theories. I'm just being honest with you. I know my husband does, and I don't.
I don't.
I know. I
hear you. I don't. Really
I have a good friend named Joe Smallwood, and we talk about this all the time. We just don't want to know. Yes. Like we want to, because I believe that everyone. But I do know what her alter ego, and I think that's propelled her to be who she is because she's dynamic on stage, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that's mine. I pray for this, the Holy Spirit to go before me.
Amen.
So that I can, and sometimes I'm telling you, even when I say that prayer, I walk in and I may get mad that day because there are reasons to get mad in a job, and there's reasons. So I've never gotten nervous once on stage. I've never gotten nervous because I don't have to, because I'm going to say probably some words that aren't mine, right?
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's my same prayer every morning. I say,
Is it?
Lord, same prayer. I love that.
Yeah.
Every morning I say, Lord, go before me.
Yeah.
Close every door that is not supposed to be open, and open every single door that is supposed to. Give me the courage to walk through it, and the confidence to follow before where you have led me. And amen. That's so good.
And that's usually why I'm not sleeping at night, by the way. So even though I'm not sleeping, I'm praying. Yeah.
That's good.
And so that gets me through the next day.
Look at the fruit.
We've done a little bit.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, but you know, every box of root has a cross on it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, but I will say this. I am a proponent of a supporter of different religions, too. I'm not here to judge.
Yeah.
And I'm not here for people to judge me either.
No.
I believe that there's only one judge, and it's definitely not me.
Amen.
But I think that it's the prayers that have gotten us to where we are.